and Facebook Live. So I'm just going to make sure I know what the heck I'm doing here. But I'm really excited. I'm going to go live once a week, every Tuesday. The plan is 10 a.m. Central with something related to planning and launching a summit, whether it's mindset blocks you might be facing or, I don't know, specific strategies I want to make sure you know. I am going to be going live and making sure you guys know those things. So I'm just going to make sure it's working on Facebook before I spend too much time here. Summit. If you're with me on Instagram already, say hello. Let me know if you're here. If you're watching the replay, I think there's replays. You're going to see how much I know about this. If there is a replay and you're watching, comment. Let me know. Let me know if you have any questions. Same for you already joining me on Facebook Live over here. Just share it to my group. I'm going to be better at this next week, I promise. I'm going to know which one to do first because I thought I'd have time to add a title over on Instagram stories, and I don't. But today, I will stop babbling and tell you that today we are talking about fears you might have with your online summit. And because I know that a lot of you have those fears, I want to tell you that I have them too and share those specific fears with you. I'm right now planning my 4th summit. I just pitched my first round of speakers this morning for it. So all of those fears are really fresh in my mind, and I can totally relate to the things you're feeling. And this time, my 4th time around, it's pretty mild. But my first time, it was not. Okay, so we're going to get into all of those things. Hosting a summit can be scary. If you're intimidated, oh man, we're off to a good start. If you're intimidated by the idea or have other fears around it, just know that that's totally normal and that's okay. Whether you've been in business for a couple years and have a small following, or you're really advanced and have like tens of thousands of followers, tens of thousands of people on your email list, putting yourself out there with an event like this can and will be scary. It's something new. That's always a little intimidating. So to show you that it is normal, like I said, I wanted to share some of my biggest fears with you today, specifically for my first summit, since this time is easier. By the 3rd, 4th time, it gets a little easier. But I want to share with you what the fears were, how I pushed past them, and kind of what actually happened around those things. So let's start with where I was at when I started planning my first summit. So I had been in business for about 2 years. At the 2-year mark is when I decided to finally accept that idea. I had about 400 people on my email list at the time. I was getting clients when I needed them, but I wasn't super well known. I wasn't booking out in advance. I would be oh, I hope a client comes in tomorrow, and boom, there they were. So I wasn't booking in advance. I had never done anything close to it before. I had done small challenges, joint webinars with people, again, very small results. And I had spoken at one summit before. And at that time, I was scared to even accept that I could do a summit. For me, I couldn't even let my brain admit that it was possible for me. But I had the idea, and it kept popping into my mind for months and months and months. And I'd push it away whenever it came in, thinking that, I'm not nearly important enough to do a summit. I can't do that. I was thinking things like, what will speakers think of me when I pitch them? Will people just laugh when I start promoting and they see it on social media and be like, she's doing a summit? What's she doing? I thought it might look like a big joke. This wasn't something I was letting myself consider for a really long time because of those things. But one day I was driving in the car, I was listening to a podcast episode, and it just clicked. I suddenly, for some reason, had the realization that I could do a very specific summit just for my audience, which was designers. And since nothing like that had been done before, it would be something I could make stand out. And it would be something that people would want to be a part of because of that. And luckily, I was right. So if you're having fears like this, think about how can you set your summit apart. Is it that you'll have a specific audience like me? Is it going to be a really unique topic? Is it going to be a unique summit idea that someone hasn't seen before? You're doing something different with your summit that people aren't going to be familiar with. What will that be for you, and how can you make your summit different than all the other summits out there, okay? So I wasn't even accepting the option that I could host a summit for a really long time. So if you are in the same boat, know that it's totally normal. One day it will click if it hasn't yet. I'm thinking if you're watching this, maybe it's clicked or it's really close to, but it's going to happen. You can do it. I promise you can do it. Again, if you're on Instagram or Facebook, just let me know if you're here, and feel free to ask questions whether you're here with me live or watching the replay. The next scary thing that happened after I accepted that I was going to host a summit and started planning was pitching speakers. So planning was going great. I was having a blast. I was feeling decent about everything. And then it came time to send those speaker pitches. And then everything changed. All those original feelings came flooding back, like the original amount and more, even worse. I was terrified that I would send out those pitches and get nothing except negative replies in return. So to help with that, I did a couple things. First, I started by pitching speakers who I knew well, who I wanted to speak, but I was pretty sure they would say yes. And luckily, quickly, I got yeses from them, or most of them. I don't remember exactly. So that gave me a little confidence boost. So I sent out that next round of pitches using the people in the first round as social proof in my pitch email. So I was able to say, oh, this person's, we have a great lineup of speakers, including this, and this person. And that helped me feel a little more confident. And I have a feeling it helped me look like I was hosting a more legitimate summit as well, or maybe not necessarily my first one ever. But it did work. Speakers were super into the idea. Almost everyone I pitched said yes. And I was able to kind of leave those negative feelings behind me. So that was really nice. And all of that was great. It was nice having my speakers lined up. I was feeling really good about things again until it came time to start promoting the summit and actually start putting it out into the world and telling people about it. The presentations I was getting from my speakers were incredible. They were great, but I was terrified that everyone would look at this thing that I was doing, this little developer from Wisconsin with a tiny audience, and be like, what is she doing? Like, she isn't a big enough deal for this. But the scheduled social media posts that my VA did for me went out anyways. I did not go in and cancel them. Off they went. And within the first couple of days, I think it was within the first week, I hit my income goal. And I was seeing that I needed to set a new registration goal. People loved it. It was going really well. Conversions were high. They were excited to get started. And the specific message I used was really catching everyone's attention because they hadn't seen a summit like that before. They hadn't seen a summit just for designers. So the fact that I set my summit apart in that way really benefited me and really helped. So there we go. I was good. Promotion was going well. I was feeling good about that again until you see a pattern here, day one of the summit. And that was another really terrifying time. I don't remember exactly what I was scared of. Maybe it was just that my website would crash or that people wouldn't think that these presentations were as helpful as I thought they were. But that didn't happen. Again, none of these bad things I was expecting actually happened. It couldn't be further from what happened. Attendees were so into the presentations. They were so excited and engaged, more than I ever expected. My speakers were loving all the attention they were getting from these attendees. Sales kept rolling in throughout this period, and really I was floored with the results. And it was incredible. So I think you see here there's a pattern. I came to this step in the summit, got terrified, got in my own head, pushed past it in one way or another, and everything was okay. And I really think that's what you're going to experience too, especially if imposter syndrome, which is what I was feeling, is your biggest struggle like it is mine. Every step of the way, I doubted that I was good enough. I doubted what people's thoughts of my summit. I doubted that I could pull this thing off. But I ended up being good enough every time, and you will too. So in a later video, like I said, this is going to be a weekly series. In a later video, we'll talk about what I think you need to do, what you need as a person to launch a summit. But I'm fairly certain that if you're watching this, you're already good enough. So I want you to know that, recognize and accept that hosting a summit will be uncomfortable. It will be a little scary. It is something new, but move forward and create an incredible event because I know you can, okay? So I want you to take that message away today. I want you to know that. If you have any questions for me on Instagram, on Facebook, let me know. Next week's video is going to be on Tuesday at 10 a.m. And it's going to be about, we're going to talk about what it actually takes to create and launch an online summit from scratch. I'm going to show you what it takes, talk you through those things so you can have a really great expectation and be kind of realistic about it all. So again, if you have any questions, let me know, and thanks so much for tuning in.